Have you ever woken up early on a Thanksgiving morning to begin getting everything ready, but you don't feel excited? You actually feel anxious? You've got the turkey schedule mapped out by the hour. You've thought through the conversation topics that are safe. Maybe you've even mentally rehearsed how you'll redirect if anyone brings up certain subjects. This isn't preparing a meal, it's preparing for battle. Maybe by 2 p.m., you're exhausted. By 4 p.m., someone said that exact thing you were trying to prevent. By 6 p.m., you're hiding in the kitchen, feeling resentful and disconnected, surrounded by the people you love, but feeling completely alone. Maybe right now you have that knot in your stomach when you look at the calendar and you see those holiday gatherings approaching. You've already begun to brace yourself for the critical comment, the political debate, the passive aggressive dig, the same old patterns playing out. If any of that sounds familiar, you are not alone. And today, we are going to talk about a completely different way to approach this season. Welcome to the Seasons of Joy podcast. My name is Jill Pack, and this is episode number 179 entitled The Best Holiday Gift. The best gift that you can give this holiday season isn't the perfect meal, the ideal seating arrangement, or finally getting your adult children to behave the way you think they should. It's not having all the right words prepared or managing everyone's emotions so nobody gets uncomfortable. The gift is connection, not control. And I know that this sounds simple, but it's not easy because we've been taught that love means fixing people in a way, that being a good mother, daughter, sister, friend means smoothing over the rough edges, preventing conflict, managing everything so that it works out right. We've been carrying this burden for so long that we don't even realize how heavy it is anymore. But here's what I've learned in my own life and working with other women. The exhaustion that we feel during the holidays isn't from cooking or hosting. It's from trying to control outcomes that we were never meant to control. It's from monitoring everyone's mood, managing conversations, and holding ourselves responsible for other people's experiences. What do we actually long for underneath all that control? Real connection, being truly seen, belonging without performing. But here is the paradox to this. The more we try to control, the less connected we become. So today, I want to offer you a different approach. I'm going to share 4 simple practices that can transform your holiday gatherings from something you endure into opportunities for genuine connection. So I call them the 4 A's. Number 1, asking. We want to lead with curiosity. In the past, I really struggled with some of my kids' life's choices, and it would often include a lecture of some kind from me with this underlying belief that it was my job to help them course correct. Now, I am not saying we never share our perspective, but when we go into those conversations with the energy that it's our job to fix or change them, it's not going to go very well. A few months ago, I had an experience that really hit home for me, the power of curiosity in my relationships with my adult children. We were driving in the car and we were talking about this child's spiritual journey. And in times past, this topic has scared me. I'll be honest, I've had a lot of fear around that. In this moment, this child was sharing where they are spiritually, and I could feel myself actually move towards curiosity instead of fear. And I heard myself ask, "Tell me more." And we had a beautifully honest conversation. I could feel that child's body relax as they shared their thoughts. Now, does this mean there isn't ever fear or sadness coming up for me about this topic? No, it comes to visit sometimes. Yet more and more often, curiosity is where I lean, and then the connection can come. In this example, I was really able to hear them in a way I never could have if I'd gone into that conversation with my previous agenda. My curiosity was genuine, not disguised judgment. It opened a door I didn't even know was there. Curiosity is an act of generosity. When you say, tell me more about that instead of you're wrong, you're giving someone the gift of being truly heard. You're saying your inner world or experience matters to me more than being right. Now, I'm not talking about fake curiosity. You know what I mean. We will ask a question, but really we're just waiting for our turn to speak or correct or influence in some way. I'm talking about genuine openness to understanding someone else's perspective, even if we never agree with it. This holiday season, when your son announces he's changing majors again, or your sister shares a political view that makes your eye twitch, or your daughter in law is critical of something for the 100th time, pause, take a breath, and try. That's interesting. What led you to see it that way? You might be surprised what you learn. And even if you're not surprised, even if they say exactly what you expected they would say, you've done something powerful. You've chosen connection over being right. The vulnerability required for real curiosity is enormous because when you genuinely ask, you might hear something that challenges you, something that requires you to expand your perspective and understanding. But that's where real relationship happens, in that space when we are discovering more about each other. Number two, adapting. Flexibility is actually a superpower. Maybe you've planned a beautiful, meaningful Christmas. You had this vision of everyone sitting around the fireplace, sharing things they were thankful for, and really being present with each other. Instead, maybe half the family showed up late. Your young adult son spent the dinner scrolling on his phone, or your husband criticized the ham. Nobody wanted to talk about gratitude, and the whole evening felt like a failure. Maybe you've had this belief that it was supposed to be different. Have you had an experience like this? If so, this is an opportunity to pause and ask ourselves a different question. What actually happened that evening? Not what didn't happen, but what did. Maybe you remember that your grandson came up and snuggled on your lap. Maybe your daughter in law helped with the dishes without being asked. And maybe you had a real conversation. Maybe your husband shared a funny family Christmas memory and somehow got the whole room laughing. Have you been so attached to your vision of how connection should look that you completely miss the ways it actually showed up? Adaptation isn't about lowering your standards or being a doormat. It's about being present to what is rather than being imprisoned by what you thought should be. It's recognizing that the moment happening right now might be better than the one you planned if you're flexible enough to receive it. When we release our white knuckle grip on outcomes, we create space for genuine moments to unfold. The conversation that happens naturally, the unexpected laughter, the small kindness you never would have planned out. Some of your best memories probably weren't from perfectly executed plans. They were from those moments that went sideways and became something else entirely. This Thanksgiving, when the pie burns, when someone shows up with an unexpected guest, when the conversation goes in a direction you didn't plan or want, that's not a failure. That's life asking you to come and dance instead of taking the lead. Flexibility is a superpower because it allows you to stay present instead of getting stuck in disappointment. And presence is where connection lives. Number three, accepting. Accepting the fact that we are all messy humans. Do you feel like it's your job to be all put together, the one who has it all figured out, the one who can hold space for everyone else's mess while hiding your own? This can be exhausting. More than that, it can be isolating because when you're performing perfection, which that's what it is, it's a performance, no one can really get to know you. And when you're expecting perfection from other people, you never really see them. The truth is, we are all messy humans, every single one of us. That includes you and me, your son in law with the strong opinions, your daughter who makes choices you don't understand, your sister who can't help but criticize, and yes, even the person who seems to have it all together. We're all doing our best with what we know, with the wounds we carry, with the tools we've been given, with the stories we tell ourselves about how life works. Acceptance doesn't mean condoning harmful behavior. It doesn't mean staying in toxic situations or allowing someone to mistreat you. Acceptance isn't the same as approval. Acceptance means seeing people clearly, their struggles, their limitations, their edges of growth, and choosing to relate to them as they actually are, not as we wish they would be. I think about my own journey. For 28 years, I was a stay at home mom, and then I went through what I call a midlife awakening, which is a generous term for what was actually a pretty messy unraveling. I made mistakes. I hurt people I loved. I had to rebuild parts of my life and myself where I felt broken. And the people who loved me best during this time, they weren't the ones trying to fix me or return me to who I used to be. They were the ones who could hold space for my mess while I figured things out. That's the gift of acceptance. When you can say you're struggling and I still see you. You made a choice I wouldn't make, and you're still worthy of love. You're not who I expected you to be, and that's okay. That's when real intimacy becomes possible. This holiday season, when your adult child shows up having made a choice you don't agree with, when your spouse seems insensitive, when your sibling falls back into old patterns, can you practice acceptance? Not agreement, not enabling, just the simple recognition that they, like you, are a messy human being trying to find their way. This is grace, unearned, unmerited love. That's what acceptance is. It's extending to others the same grace we all desperately need. And number 4, think about this question for a second. What if everyone at the table is genuinely trying? Not trying to hurt you, not trying to be difficult, just trying to connect, to be loved, to be safe, to protect themselves, to do what they think is right. What if your mother's criticism is actually her awkward attempt to stay relevant in your life? What if your spouse's silence isn't rejection, but his learned way of avoiding conflict? What if your adult child's distance is their clumsy way of establishing their independence, and it's not a rejection of you? I'm not saying this to excuse hurtful behavior. Some things genuinely are hurtful and need to be addressed. But before we get to addressing it, we have to check our assumptions. Because our assumptions create self-fulfilling prophecies. If you walk into Thanksgiving dinner assuming your sister is out to criticize you, you'll interpret everything through that lens. You'll hear an attack in a neutral comment. You'll brace instead of connect. And ironically, that defensiveness that you're feeling and showing up with might actually activate the very behavior you were trying to avoid. But what if you tried a different assumption? I remember a holiday gathering where someone in my family was talking about their new religious path. In the past, I would have heard it as an attack on my religious path. I would have felt defensive and probably shut down. But that year, I tried something different. I assumed they were trying to open up, not hurt. They were sharing their perspective, not criticism. That they were trying to connect. Instead of getting defensive, I asked them to tell me more about their experience. And something shifted. They softened. We had an actual conversation instead of a dance of tension. It wasn't perfect, but it was real. Assuming the best doesn't mean being naive. It doesn't mean ignoring patterns or allowing yourself to be mistreated. It means choosing to lead with trust until you have clear evidence otherwise. It means giving people the benefit of the doubt that you would want them to give to you. When you mess up, when you say something awkward or handle a situation poorly, don't you want people to assume you were trying your best, that you meant well, even if the execution was off? That's the gift we can give other people, the assumption that beneath the clumsy words, the bad timing, the imperfect delivery, there's a human being trying to navigate the same complicated things we all are. This one small shift, assuming everyone is trying, can transform an entire gathering. It can melt your defensiveness. It can create openness where there was once a wall. Now, it doesn't guarantee everything will go smoothly, but it gives connection a fighting chance. Connection does not happen in one perfect conversation over pie. I think that's what we're all secretly hoping for, that one magical moment where everything clicks, everyone understands each other, and all the old hurts melt away. And we finally get the Hallmark movie ending. But that's not how connection actually works. Real connection is built through small, consistent moments of trust and kindness. It's this accumulation of tiny choices made over time. It's the patient response when you'd rather snap back. It's the gentle question when you'd rather lecture. It's choosing to listen when you'd rather correct. It's texting to check in. It's letting something go. It's showing up even when it's awkward. Over the last few years, I have watched the relationships with my adult children shift and grow in such a beautiful way. It's been a journey and it hasn't happened overnight. It has happened in 100 small moments. A text here, a joke there, a little longer conversation, a vulnerability shared, a request honored. I just keep showing up, trying to ask more questions without an agenda. I do bite my tongue a lot, and I have adapted my expectations. I've accepted their pace, not mine. I assume they are doing their best even when I don't understand their choices. That's how connection happens, not dramatically, but incrementally. And that's actually really good news because it means you don't have to have everything figured out right now. You don't need the perfect words. You don't have to fix everything this Thanksgiving. You just need to show up and make one small choice toward connection instead of control, and then another and another. The compound effect of those small acts of trust and kindness, that's what transforms relationships. Not grand gestures, not perfect moments, just consistency in choosing connection over control again and again. So here's my invitation to you this holiday season. What if you gave up trying to control outcomes and instead showed up willing to connect? Now, again, I know this is harder than it sounds because giving up control means mourning the dream, fantasy of this perfect family, the dream that if you just say the right thing, everyone will finally understand. The fantasy that this year will be different somehow because you've finally figured out how to make it work. Letting go of control means accepting that you can't prevent every uncomfortable moment. You can't manage everyone's emotions. You can't make your adult children make the choices you think they should make. You can't fix your parents or change your siblings or force deep connection where people aren't ready. And that grief is real. And I want to honor that. There's a letting go that has to happen, and letting go always involves loss of some kind. But you will gain peace, your own presence, the freedom to show up as yourself instead of the director, producer, and stage manager of everyone else's experience. You can't control how others respond. Your curiosity might be met with defensiveness. Your flexibility might be taken advantage of. Your acceptance might not be reciprocated. Your best assumptions might be proven wrong. But you can control your own presence. You can decide what kind of person you want to be in the room. You can choose connection over control, even if you're the only one making that choice. And sometimes, not always, but sometimes, your willingness to connect shifts the entire dynamic. Your question opens someone up. Your flexibility creates breathing room. Your acceptance gives someone permission to be real. And your good assumption breaks a pattern. Even if it doesn't change anyone else, it changes you. And that is what matters. So let me give you a concrete takeaway. First, before each gathering, set an intention. Not a goal for how others should behave, but an intention for who you want to be. Something simple like, I'm here to connect, not control. And then pick one person that you're going to practice curiosity with. Just one, not the whole family. Maybe it's your mother-in-law, maybe it's your nephew, maybe it's your own child. With that one person, commit to asking more and fixing less. And then notice when you're trying to manage someone else's experience. It might be subtle. like you're redirecting a conversation, you're jumping in to smooth things over, or you're monitoring someone's mood. Just notice it. You don't have to stop yourself every single time, but just build awareness around those moments. And finally, have a grounding practice ready. When you feel yourself slipping into control mode, or when your anxiety, what will bring you back to yourself? Maybe it's stepping outside for 2 minutes. Maybe it's a quick prayer. Maybe it's 3 deep breaths with long exhales. Maybe it's texting a supportive friend. Know your tool before you need it and practice it. And here's a bonus. After the gathering, resist the urge to replay everything that went wrong. Instead, look for 3 moments of connection, even the tiniest of ones. Train your brain to see what went right, not just what didn't. The holidays won't be perfect, but they don't have to be, because underneath the imperfect conversations and the burnt rolls, the family dynamics that haven't magically resolved themselves, there's an opportunity. A chance to practice showing up as your most connected, least controlling self. A chance to ask instead of assume, to adapt instead of rigidly hold on, to accept instead of demand, to assume the best instead of brace for the worst. That's the gift that keeps on giving long after the decorations come down. Not control, connection.